A very good afternoon and welcome to Awake TV. My name's Taylor-Shearer, and today we have plenty coming up for you with some pre-recorded interviews. We're going to have people on the sofa, and we are also going to have Neil Foster live from the USA bringing us news and views and a report on what's going on there today. So it is now 5 p.m. here in the UK. It's 12 o'clock midday New York. It's 11 a.m. Austin and 9 a.m. San Francisco. It's also, did you know, that it's midnight in Beijing and 1 a.m. in Tokyo. Great to have you along. And today's t-shirt, Frankie says, relax. Throwback to the 1980s. Make of that what you will. There is no hidden message, but if you want there to be, there can be. But the only message is, relax. That's all I want to say to you. Just relax. Okay. Let's kick into the first article then. This is a recording of an interview that Cheryl Smale did earlier on today with Lewis Montague. And he's going to be talking to you about health, ionised water, and a whole lot more. So here's Cheryl with her interview, and she'll be joining us just after this VT.
Hi, today we're going to be looking at the nation's health. I'm joined by Lewis Montague, who is the Managing Director of the Water Ionising Company. He's been a researcher in health issues for many years, and he's also the Secretary General of the Natural World Organisation. Hi Lewis, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Okay, so what drew you to the interest of our physical health?
Gosh, about 15 years ago I was enticed to wear magnetic insoles in my shoes. I play a lot of sport, tennis, squash, badminton, and a martial artist, and my knees were getting worse every year with pain, and I didn't want to do it. I was so sceptical, it was unbelievable. And when you're in pain you try all sorts of things. So I tried these magnetic insoles. And after 2 or 3 weeks, the pain subsided in my knees. I couldn't believe it. I knew it wasn't psychosomatic because I didn't think it was going to work for 1 second. However, it did. So that turned me on to thinking and researching about health. I realised I didn't know much about it. I was very fit. And when you're fit, of course, you think you're healthy, which isn't the case. Because really, when you're healthy, you should also be fit. But fitness on its own is great, but it's not the ideal if you haven't touched all the other areas of your life in terms of health. So I started to study the physiology, the anatomy of the body. I looked at nutrition, and I started to realize what you needed to be eating. So I became organic. I started to buy things all organic. Then after a time I became vegetarian when I learned more. And then I went on to a website called notmilk.com, Robert Cohen's site. It's a great site. And I became vegan overnight. Really? Absolutely. Yeah. And then time went on again as my knowledge base increased. I then realized that I needed to be as much raw food as I could. And that came about from my research into cancer treatments, natural cancer treatments, when been to many countries looking at the treatments, talking to the gurus out there. And whilst the protocols are different around the world, the common factor really is the diet. It's always vegan, raw food, green, sprouting food. Right, great. This is optimal health.
Yeah. What kind of effects were you seeing when you made the shift from a meat diet to a vegan diet? What kind of physical shifts did you feel?
Well, it coincided with me also getting a water ionizer in the very early days, and that helps to really alkalise the body. So that and reducing meat intake, which is very acidic forming after metabolism, just made me feel so good. I have energy, tons of energy, and playing sport was really good, which I haven't stopped, and I think it's important never to stop playing sport. But as long as you feed the body, give it the nutrients it needs to be healthy, you can carry on. It doesn't matter how old you are. Just don't ask how old I am. But so the ideal is to keep the body fit, the cells fit, and exercise, keep the body moving. But let's come back to that.
Tell me a bit about what you see the problem is with the nation's health.
Okay, well, wow. Well, if you look at there are five or six areas that you need to look at constantly. And these are the 5 areas you need to look at when you become ill. The first one is pollution. Pollution is a major, major problem. And there are 3 areas to that, really. There's external pollution. We all know about car fumes and things coming out of factories. That's a big issue. You go into the countryside because you think that's better, then you have the farmers putting all their herbicides and into exercise. It's all over, pesticides, and you're inhaling this stuff. You can't not inhale it. And those chemicals do get into the body, and we know they are carcinogenic. The second part is in your house, in the home. Wow, that's a massive trap. It's far worse than being outside. Because think of all the chemicals you have in the house they're used for cleaning, just to start with. But how many people realise the chemicals in carpets, fire retardant, upholstery? This isn't so bad. But it's there and you are ingesting it. Our pets, the poor things, are going down with cancer all over the place. But their noses are so close to the floor, they must be ingesting it at a rapid
virtually
rate as
direct
well.
contact with them.
So the pollution is a big issue. Then the third part is what you put on the body. Shampoos, toothpaste, creams, makeup. Make sure that they're free of chemicals, because we now know this absorbs into our bloodstream very easily. And again, it's in the blood, it's in the body, it's a problem, it's carcinogenic. So then, after pollution, you're looking at hydration. We don't drink enough. Water, guys, water. We don't drink enough. There's a formula on how much you should drink. It's based on your weight. You go to the doctor, he'll say drink 6 to 8 glasses a day, whether you're 8 stone or 18 stone. Does that make sense? There's more fluid in the bigger person, so you need to drink more. Dehydration is a major problem. Dehydration, if you don't hydrate with water, you will end up with cellular dehydration, chronic cellular dehydration. So the beginning of the breakdown of your cells. So hydration is absolutely essential. The waters vary. We talk about tap water. You have your own opinions about that. There's filtered water.
The quality of the water is a huge issue, isn't
absolutely
it? As we know.
Right. So you have to be careful with that. Do your homework. There's reverse osmosis, which takes everything out of your water.
Because we're looking to take out the fluoride, the chlorine.
There, yes. Yeah.
What else are we looking to remove? Heavy metals,
estrogen, other chemicals, all that sort of stuff needs to be out of the water. There's a water ionizer, as I mentioned before, which is very good. So there are lots of things you can do to educate yourself as to what water you should really be drinking. Then there's the big one, diet. Wow. What is a good diet? And you'll find 1,000 opinions on that. And well, all I can say is the research that I've done, I have no doubts that being a vegan, as I am, I'm organic, vegan, raw food, as I've said, is the answer. We know that eating meat is going to acidify in the body after metabolism. All animal-based food will. Plant-based food is very healthy, but again, it doesn't guarantee you're going to be really healthy, because you have to ensure you get across the board. It's a balancing act. Whether you're a vegetarian, a meat eater, a vegan, whatever, you've still got to ensure you're eating across the board.
And of course, the quality of the vegetables. If you're vegetarian and vegan, the quality of the vegetables is hugely important.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? You know.
And of course, even though you're eating organic food, all that means is you're eating food that hasn't been contaminated with all those chemicals put on by the farmers. What it doesn't guarantee is the nutrient content of the food, because our soils are, we just know our soils are being depleted of minerals all over the place. So organic food is great for what you will not take in, but it doesn't guarantee the best of what should be in the plant-based.
It doesn't replace what should be there.
Supplementation is the answer, and and there's so many variations of that. That's
But then, of course, yeah, that's another show, and the quality of the supplements is another issue, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So I describe, meat. First of all, if you're eating meat, you're eating decomposing flesh of wherever it's coming from. It's dead, isn't it? It's been killed, and as soon as you kill anything, it starts to decompose. Of course. So if you think of the 2 or 3 main animals we eat, they're vegan, aren't they? They are vegan. They're cow, they're sheep, they're vegan. And so
do we eat any meat-eating, any carnivorous animals? I don't think, do we?
Well, people say maybe a pig can eat other things, but a pig can still survive in a plant-based diet as well. But and so what you're doing when you think about it is these animals are eating their plant-based foods, whatever they are, and they're taking in the vitamins and the minerals, the amino acids and the enzymes, and they're using that up in their body. Those vitamins and minerals are the nutrients that they need, which are being burnt out by the body. Then you have amino acids. Amino acids, we generally synthesize most of those in the body. There's about 8 or 9 that we can't, so we need to eat those from plant-based food. And so enzymes, we have to eat those from the plant-based food. But an animal does this, and it's using it in the body. It's using itself. So when you're eating an animal, you're eating second-hand food. Yeah. It's already being utilised by the animal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Isn't that mad?
Yes.
And people say, yes, but weren't we meant to eat meat? Well, look at a carnivore's intestinal tract. It's a third of the size of ours. The lower intestine is smooth to get that meat in and out again. We can't do that.
Yeah, we've pockets, have we?
That's right. It's like, I think the term acidulated, and it's stopping things getting through. It's meant to be for fibre in a way, to allow the fibre to slowly be absorbed what it can absorb. And so meat has nowhere to go, which is why you get mucoid plaque build-up in the colon and the lower intestine.
Which will cause illness and depleted energy
Colonic
levels,
illnesses
I'm sure.
are just horrendous. Many start from there. And so there's another big issue with the protein. People think you need to eat meat for protein. Okay, iron is one. They also say, but protein in the main is made in the body. The world bodybuilding champions are vegan. I met this weekend at the Veg Fest in London. Many bodybuilders who are vegan. So that's a nonsense to believe you need protein from an animal.
Because this is a huge belief. I mean, people, we're very well aware that we need protein to build up our muscles and to thrive. However, you're stating the case that it doesn't need to come from animal product. We can derive it from vegetables
without any doubt whatsoever.
Plant-based foods.
Right across peas, seeds, nuts, beans. It's everywhere. The enzymes and amino acids are everywhere. But again, there's maybe 200 we tend to talk about, and 20 of those are needed for the building blocks for protein. But we synthesize almost all those except about 8 essential amino acids, which we need to take from another source. There's even an argument, if you're eating protein from an animal, it's a complete protein because it's perfectly formed in the animal. You've got to break it down when you eat it. So your body takes a lot of effort to break that down back into amino acids.
So it's using unnecessary energy, whereas we could be reserving that energy by eating the protein direct from the plant.
So diet is a big issue, and it's, for me, the most important one, because you can deal with so many illnesses by feeding the cells before they degenerate, and that's what it's all about.
Definitely.
So then you go on to something you may not have heard of yourself, stress. Have you heard of stress?
Yes, I have heard of stress.
Stress is a major issue. It's a killer. And when you think of the lives we lead, I mean, who isn't a slave to money. We're slaves to debt, aren't we?
We're slaves to debt, indeed.
It's
yeah,
just atrocious.
indeed.
And
our
that's another big
relationship
issue.
with money,
Yeah.
you know, essentially the relationship that we have with our financial situation is the stress, isn't it? That's
Correct.
what we need to look at, I think.
And so stress produces hormones. They can't escape because we're not using the fight and flight thing, and it stays in the body, and it's just not healthy. Then there's it's not just stress; it's emotional stuff.
Of course.
It's trapped emotions.
Yeah,
So
stuck
people
emotion.
don't even know they've got them.
Exactly,
From
indeed.
childhood, and you go back and you start finding out, why do I act this way? There must be a reason. So there's so many things you can do for that.
Yeah.
EFT,
Of
emotional
course,
freedom techniques,
Technique,
are great.
great
Therapy,
release. Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
a great release. It's a great therapy, and it works.
Absolutely,
it works.
It's huge around the world. You know, it's everywhere because it does work. Even some of the doctors beginning to understand it, which is good news. And so, stress, trauma, emotional, all this stuff needs to be addressed with any illness, especially a serious one like cancer, because positive thinking is essential. You've got to really believe what you're doing is going to work. And it will work if you have the belief, because that's half the battle. So a very important aspect of one of the things you have to address. Then after that, you've got exercise.
We don't
We
get
always
enough
talk
by
about
far,
exercise.
do we?
No, we don't.
We really don't.
And you can break that down into aerobic. You've got to be able to stretch the muscles. Look at animals, dogs. When they wake up, what do?
But yeah, they
all,
stretch.
"Oh."
Yeah.
Why do they know what to do and we don't?
It's instinct, isn't it? I think,
Yeah.
and we definitely have been.
It's great to stretch, and the areas, you know, all over the body. Stretch your legs and your pelvic area. Just keep moving. And then there's weight-bearing exercise, and then this is essential for everybody. We talk about osteoporosis and in the bones and things, and how many people know that if you grow the muscles, if you tone your muscles, your bones grow with the muscle. So forget the bones, just deal with the muscles. Then we talk about calcium. Oh, that's another big issue. Milk. You need calcium from milk.
There's a big argument about milk, isn't there? I know there's a
well,
big...
what can I say about that? Milk is for growth. Milk is used by all the mammals in the world to feed their young, their offspring. However, there's only one mammal that continues drinking milk beyond the weaning stage. The intelligent one. Now, who would that be? The good old human. But not only do we continue drinking milk, we actually drink the bodily fluid of an animal.
Of another
it's
one.
not even our own milk, is
No,
it? Just think about it. And when people say to me, "Oh, I've got an intolerance to milk," I say, "Oh, you lucky person."
Congratulations.
You know, intolerances to wheat and milk, we've all heard about. I mean, there are millions of people who have those.
Yes.
But nobody questions it. Nobody says why. Well,
And were these intolerances around maybe 60, 70 years ago?
we don't know how far they go back. I suppose we become more aware of what's happening to the
Is it a
body,
possibility that the grain is the issue? And
I think
not our digestive
talking
system?
about wheat, then yes, you have to really go back to ancient wheat, which is a different structure completely to the wheat we have today. Wheat today is not so good. I'm trying to be kind here, but I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole.
No.
Because of what it can do to the body. We know the DNA in short wheat, which is the ancient wheat, hasn't been hybridized, modified, has a DNA of in it 3, 4, 5 to 10, whereas we believe that the DNA in the short stuff today is over 100. It's been changed so much the body doesn't recognize it.
Yeah.
And that is a real shame. Milk. How far we go back for intolerances there, I don't know. Because I have no doubts, for me, milk is for growth and it's for babies. And we pump it into our kids and reaching puberty years before their time.
And the question is, should the should the growing babies be taking milk from another animal?
No.
It should, should it not be breast milk, the milk from the mother, from the the natal mother? It just common sense,
It is common sense.
We've lost
it because of the marketing, the pressure,
of course,
from establishment.
Of
they
course.
don't want you to know this stuff.
No, because we'd be healthy and thriving then.
Yes, and gosh, what would happen to the pharmaceutical industry?
Of course, yeah.
So, I believe that you should not stop moving. Keep the body moving. There's no reason. If you've got stairs, walk upstairs. Don't go lifts. I mean, I would walk upstairs. I would go out of my way to walk upstairs rather than a lift or elevator. You've just got to keep the body moving. This is what we're meant to do. And how many times do you hear somebody say, "Oh, you're middle-aged now, you're in your 40s, and you better start slowing down." What a load of tosh that is. As long as you feed the cells of the body, then you don't have a problem. And going back to pollution, I mean, the other thing that's now becoming, which is quite new, but is, of course, Wi-Fi and wireless.
Indeed, yeah.
Electromagnetic fields.
Yes.
This is really a disaster. Go and look up Barry Trower. I mean, just look at his work. I will not have it in the house. It's not in our offices. Everything is on a cable. Because it's microwaves, and microwaves are just destroying us. And I've seen scientists talk about this and make statements like, "If we thought smoking was bad, you ain't seen nothing yet." I mean, this is affecting cells in the body, in the brain. Is there evidence about it? There is evidence out there, but we're going to have to wait another, 10, 15 years when more and more people die before we start accepting there's something wrong.
Of course, it's very new technology, isn't it, in terms of domestically?
Yeah.
I mean, it's, maybe 4 years, 5 years? I'm not sure how long it's been about domestically, but it's we just don't know. We don't know what's happening.
You know, if there's any doubt, if there is a doubt, don't put it into schools. Those poor kids with a skull thickness half the size of an adult, they've got no chance if they're completely surrounded by these microwaves coming out of everywhere. It's just terrible.
It is,
what's happening.
I just wanted to move on, well, we've still got time, just to talk about the issue of alkalising the body and the cancer issue, because I know you're passionate about this and you've got a lot of information that you'd like to share with us. So for a couple of minutes before we finish, let's touch on that.
Well, there are many aspects as to why cancer happens, but just look at the existing system, oncology, the allopathic approach. That's allopathic medicine is diagnosing and treating with synthetically produced drugs. That's what allopathic basically means. And so chemotherapy has been around a long time, as the radiology and the surgery. We unfairly refer to them as a cut, burn and poison brigade. Maybe that's a bit unfair, but you get the gist of what they do. Chemo poisons, the radio burns, and the surgery cuts. And they're very quick to want to do it. As far as we know, cancerous cells can take 10, 15 plus years to manifest as a tumour. So a tumour is purely the symptom of cancer. It is not the cancer. It's the result of having cancer that's created those cancerous cells in the first place. Now, what the oncology lot do is they deal with the symptom of cancer by just looking at the tumour. They can either try to take it out, and they do a pretty bad job on the whole of that. Whereas the holistic approach, the natural approach, is looking at the cause of cancer, looking at the terrain of the body. You will hear people say, well, it's in the genes, it's in the family. And no, it isn't. And if it is in the genes because somebody else has had it in the family, all it means is that you may have a predisposition to contracting that illness if you give it the environment in which to do so. So, hey, don't do it. Don't be the same as the person that had the cancer in the family. My oldest friend had a heart attack at the beginning of this year. And the doctors said to him, look, don't worry about your lifestyle, we can see it's in the family. So there's nothing you can do about it. So look, take these drugs the rest of your life and you'll be okay. That's just horrendous, isn't it? I mean, he's a very old friend and this is a problem. You can't talk to friends or your family about this stuff, okay? You can only talk to strangers because it's very hard to convince them about it.
It can be.
Cancer can be dealt with in many ways. There are many different ways to deal with it. And we discover more and more almost on a weekly basis. And what we're trying to do is going down the path of scientifically researching some of the more well-known cancer treatments so that maybe we can actually take this published research, peer-reviewed, in a format that's acceptable to the scientific community and the medical industry and say, guys, you say we don't have the evidence. And they do that. And they're right to say that because we don't have the evidence that would convince the public and the doctors that this stuff works. You can have all the stories in the world, but until you go down that ridiculous path of scientific research, which you need to do with synthetically produced chemicals, drugs. But natural treatments, you don't really need to do it. But to get the message across, we've got to do it. And so when we've got this information available, we then need to get it in front of the right people. So who are they? Public? No. No point in giving to the public. The public live by doctors. They go to doctors, and because that's the system. They believe the doctors. And most doctors are doing what they believe is the right thing. I accept that. When you think of their training in 6 years, they may spend a few hours looking at nutrition. Well, how ridiculous is that? Hippocrates, the alleged grandfather of medicine, makes this very well-quoted statement about let medicine be thy food and food be thy medicine. Well, what happened to that? So doctors have a big issue with that. And so we need to go to the doctors, if not the public. The answer, no, we don't. That's a waste of time. Because doctors are controlled by their organisations in every country, BMA, they've got to toe the line. I've spoken to so many doctors over the years, and they confess to me they agree with what I'm saying, but they can do nothing about it because they're controlled by up there. So we need to get this information.
Solution? So what's your solution?
We send the proper scientific information to the offices of these organisations that control the medical industry.
Right.
We send it to them, and we put them on notice that we're doing it publicly and openly.
Okay.
So we can see, and we're sending as individuals, not to organisations, individuals, John Smith, CEO, whatever.
Those who are accountable for their company.
Who are making the decisions, who are controlled. And if they don't respond after a few weeks, then on our websites, we'll be making sure the public know what's going on.
Okay.
And then ask the public to vote. Is that person stupid or just corrupt? Let's find out which one it is. Yeah?
Indeed.
So
okay, well, there's so much more to talk about, and you know, we've touched on many of the subjects that we hope to, but as I said, there is a lot more. You know, this goes into, you know, in depth, just beyond the time limit that we've got today. So maybe you could come back again and talk to us on specific issues, and then we can investigate further and see how that goes. Okay, thanks very much, Lewis.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Cheryl Smale with Lewis Montague, and I have the lady here.
Hello.
Hello, Cheryl.
All right.
So, Lewis Montague, how do you know him?
I've known Lewis for a few years now through a mutual friend. And he's given me lots of information over the years that I found very useful, particularly in, you know, the areas of nutrition and diet, and I like to say healthy living, but I mean, you know, living to enhance my body's, you know,
natural defences.
Natural ability. Very informative guy. So
one of the ways that you look after yourself is something called EFT. Now, Lewis mentioned it in the video there. What's that?
Emotional freedom technique.
Okay.
It's quite widely known, I think, both in America and in England here. I'm not sure how globally it is out there, but it's a very good technique for removing emotional blockages in the energy system.
All right, okay.
You know, I personally use it regularly.
But you're not a practitioner, are you?
I'm not a practitioner, no, but I've been using it now for some years, and I find it very, very helpful in staying balanced and staying relieving stress, emotional stress and emotional tensions, you know, and it's highly effective in my experience. Simple technique, and there's a lot about it on the internet. So,
so what are the basics? What does it involve?
It's a series of. It's based on the notion that we have an emotional energetic system, and that there are points in the energetic system that we can release emotional blockages through. Right. And they talk about it as, you know, in terms of it's akin to what was that word? What did I tell you earlier? I can't remember what it was. Emotional acupuncture. Acupuncture, that was it. Yeah. Emotional acupuncture. Yeah, that's how it's described. And just the releases of pressures that we become conscious of, and we can. You know, and this is something you do yourself. Yeah. You don't need to go somewhere and have something. No, you know. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I was taught by a friend who is now a practitioner, but she discovered it, and we investigated it and explored it together, and it works. But I think you could probably do it at home on your own, but you know, it might be helpful to find a practitioner to help you through it. But it's very, very effective, and you know, it's been proved time and time again to release stress instantly. Right. It's been used for many conditions, post-traumatic stress, depression, you know, all sorts of emotional illnesses it can really help with. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it. Emotional freedom technique. So, right. Okay. Yeah. So does it go alongside any other kind of lifestyle changes or other lifestyle healing? I think the word healing is not one that I like to, play around with. I think just because there's so many connotations that kind of are hooked on it, really, aren't there? And I think I just really like to focus on maintaining some sort of balance within myself, and encourage others to do so. Right. You know, as I mentioned, you know, last time we spoke, that I think so many of us feel out of control of our emotional responses to life, our mental kind of stability, in that, you know, we're being overwhelmed and overloaded with stimulus, you know, and trying to find ways to stay centered and to stay still, you know, so that we can then choose where we want to go instead of being dragged off in every direction, you know. And a neat little segue is one of the ways that you've found is through art. Through art, yeah. Well, of course. I mean, I find I paint, and you know, I do a lot of illustrative. You do these massive line drawings as well, don't you? Like animals and creatures and things. A lot of illustrative work like that, and of course music. I play the piano, I play the guitar, and singing is my thing. And all of these things are, I find, meditative. You know, I find that I meditate as well. However, doing these activities, I find myself in a place of stillness. You know, I come to a balance where my awareness is increased, and then, you know, I can realise there that I'm at a creative point. You know, now I can appreciate what you're saying with regards to like the sound, you know, music and stuff, because I get that myself. You know, I've always had a lot of pleasure from music and sound and stuff. So how does that mix in with the EFT and the drawing and the meditation? And it's awareness. It's heightened awareness. As I've said, you know, the distraction is an issue. I think we're all in agreement there. There is so much distraction around us. When we become aware of the distraction, you know, we can then act. We're at a point there that we can act, and we can choose to follow the distraction or stay still and create what we want to create, rather than what the media wants us to create, what the government wants us to create. We're just puppets, you know. And through, you know, if you want to tie the EFT together with creativity, yeah, okay, so, you know, through creativity we can find stillness and we can find balance and find our own creative potential. The awareness grows of how we are responding to the external stimulus, you know, so that we can then apply the EFT if we're being overwhelmed by a particular stress. The EFT can help relieve that stress. It can take, you know, help us to remove those.
One way that I found of dealing with a lot of stress I was under was it was money. I think we all know about financial stress, financial hardship, all that kind of stuff. But when I actually researched about how money's created, where it comes from, how it's used, the reality of it, I stopped worrying about it.
Yeah, because it's not real, is it? It's just
yeah,
it is. It's about the concepts that we hold and the ideas that we hold. They form our response, don't they? We hold an idea about something. That forms our response to life, doesn't it? So, you know, once we've got that idea and we can look at it from another angle, different perspective, then our response is naturally going to change. But we have to get to a point where we become aware, like I said, you know, become aware of, you know, these ideas that we have and how real are they? How true are they, you know? As I said, it's, you know, it's our relationship with these ideas and with money. You know, it's the relationship we have with these external, well, they're internal and external realities that cause the stresses. You know, that are the stresses. So once we can grab a hold of that and realise that relationship is actually we can drive that relationship. You know, it's not up to the government to drive that relationship or the media. We can choose how we're going to relate to money.
Yeah.
We can choose how we're going to relate to each other. But we have to take the responsibility and do something. You know, we have to act. We can't just keep expecting the government to do it.
I don't walk away from the financial system, and it's certainly a part of my life, but I don't let it overtake me.
No.
As a bit, because that comment I made earlier about, I don't let money worry me anymore. It's a bit like,
Yeah.
But I know it's an issue.
It's a necessity.
Yeah.
It is.
In this paradigm, it is certainly.
It is. You know, we can't get away from that. Like I said, how we relate to it is the key. And the more tools that we've got to have to begin to develop a healthy relationship with money. I mean, it's just a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's a concept at the end of the day. You know, it's what we're doing with it, and if we can somehow find ways to balance that relationship with it, possibly there's a potential for change. But you know, we're in danger of kicking back and going all hippie, really, aren't we?
That's right,
just relax, man. But you know, of course, relax. You know, meditation is great. You know, but meditation for me isn't it in terms of relaxation. You know, I've come across many different methods of meditation over the years, and I think that there's a lot of methods out there and a lot on the internet also as well about meditation and guided meditations and things like that, and you know, they're great, they're fine. However, I always find that they distract my mind rather than still my mind. You know, we're encouraged with things like that to drift off into some kind of fantasy with the guided meditation. Meditation for me isn't about escaping into another world. It is about staying here still in this world, in my body, and the awareness of who I am growing. You
see, that otherness that you're talking about, that sounds like hypnosis to me. That's been my experience of hypnosis. Being taken off to this other place,
reality,
this other reality where everything's calm and peaceful and lovely.
Yeah, however, it's not real. It's not right here, right now.
No.
It's about increasing the senses. It's about increasing awareness. How do I feel right now? I feel really bad about that. What am I going to do about that? Oh, shall I run off and get a chocolate cookie, or shall I sit here and feel it and I EFT it, you know, move it out of me, move it through me, because otherwise it's just going to stay stuck. It's heightened awareness that we need of ourselves, you know.
But don't end up as I have, which is hyper aware.
Hyper aware,
Yeah,
right?
everything is a threat. Everything's an issue.
Yeah, yeah.
That's something I'm dealing with.
Of course, and then, you know, the key there is to find out how to relate again to to those ideas, those potential threats, how to relate to them, so that there's no longer a stress there, you know, so that there's a oneness with it, you know, or with the idea or with the.
But some of the therapies I've been through over the last few years since my post-traumatic stress disorder diagnosis, the one I found best, that works for me anyway, is some 432 hertz music, positive hertz frequency music, and the and one of these electrical stimulator things. These, you hold on to.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And I just find that it's supposed to clean your blood of parasites or something.
Right.
But I've just found it. Well, I don't know about that, but I've just found it useful as a focus for meditation, because you get a slight tingling in your hands when you're holding it. It's nothing really. It's just a very slight thing. But I focus on that whilst listening to some music, and it just helps to sort of centre myself.
Right, yeah.
So it is an escape. It is a kind of, I'm just going to go into this nice place for a bit. But I just, every now and again, I just find it useful.
We need a respite. We do sometimes. You know, life overwhelms us. You know, but I've found that over the years, the only thing that has helped me to develop and to move past trauma, you know, illness, depression, is to actually face what I'm feeling, feel it, you know, because most of the issue is the fear of what's there. You know, we spend our lives kind of dashing off, avoiding the feelings, and it's the fear of those feelings that is actually the issue. You know, once we get into it and feel it, it's just a feeling, it's gone, you know. But then, like I say, we've got to catch ourselves, because we're so distracted. We're not even aware of half of the stuff that we're feeling, you know, because we're so busy doing stuff, you know. So yeah, it's, you know, there's different answers for different people. I can only, you know, speak about what I found and what works for me.
Of course,
so,
yeah.
You know.
Well, before we move on to the next topic, which is about what happened yesterday, something that went on globally yesterday. If you're in the chat box and you've got any questions or comments that you want to give to Cheryl, or you've got anything you want to ask, pop it in the chat box. I've got that there, and I shall pose your question to Cheryl about health topics and that kind of thing. And if she can answer, then she will, I'm sure.
I'll try.
Put you on the spot a bit. Okay, so that's that. Now, yesterday was September 28th.
It was, yeah.
And if you go to september28.org, you will find the website for the people who are promoting the global, legal, safe abortion.
Right.
Now, I'm very pro-life. It's not, abortion is a very, very difficult topic, I know.
It is, yeah.
And it's something that I'll be doing a video on later in the week. Okay. So we'll see that either Wednesday or Friday. Because it's such a big topic, it's not something I wanted to just rush into and do today, even though it's close to the event. Now, the message that these people are promoting is that if women want an abortion, they should be able to have it safe and legally.
Right.
Right. So if they're going to have it, yes, okay, I agree it needs to be safe. But they also seem to be pushing the agenda of the overpopulation.
Okay.
And using abortion as a kind of contraception.
Yeah.
So where do you stand on that? It's putting you on the spot a bit, but
it is.
Yeah. But obviously, and it'd be. I want to hear your point of view. That's all.
I disagree wholly with using abortion as a form of contraception. I think that's horrendous. However, I do believe that women should have the right to abort, should they feel they need to. I wouldn't dream of telling somebody that they couldn't have one. I think it's just, yeah, I have to say, you know, it's something that I have to go along with, but definitely not for, you know, a form of contraception. I think that's just.
I'm somebody that's always said that
really,
you know, nobody should, no child, no human should be killed in such a way.
No, not at all, not at all. Yeah, it's a very sensitive subject, I think,
But it's interesting that we've got agreement on the using it as a contraception, but you feel that women should have the right to choose, and I kind of think that the choice should be made earlier in the whole operation.
Yeah, but we do have victims of rape,
yes,
and we do have victims of abuse.
Yeah.
I mean, just to try and imagine how that would, you know, how that must be, I just can't imagine.
No.
So, you know, and you know, we're living in a society where it is very easy just to nip to the doctors and get a morning after pill, or get a, you know,
because it seems to be something that's just thrown about, or, you know, it's just casually cast about.
It is, and it's what I will say is that it breaks my heart that this has happened, that it's come to a point where it's very easy to access this, and more effort isn't being put on the, you know, obviously the prevention of pregnancy. I don't necessarily mean medical contraception or any other form of contraception. What I mean is where we're coming from in a place of being aware of our bodies, you know, being aware of particularly our menstrual cycles. I think, you know, I don't take any kind of contraception because my body reacts badly to any kind of pills that I've tried when I was younger. So I use my body's natural cycle to, you know, to protect myself from pregnancy. So I think that this takes a degree of self-awareness again, you know, which we're not taught to do. You know, women aren't taught to. I have the challenge of having to teach this to my daughter when she's surrounded by girls that are on the pill already, you know, and they're sort of 14, 15, and you know, it's a challenge, but it's something I'm willing and determined to do, because we need to connect with ourselves to say, yes, I can, you know, I'm going to use my natural cycle as a way of knowing when I can and can't get pregnant, and then obviously self-restraint if, you know. So
abstinence then? Yeah,
of course, you know, but like I say, we're not living in a society that promotes going within and listening to our bodies.
See, if you look at how abortion is used in our society as a contraception, it is,
yes,
you know, and the numbers of humans that are killed every day through abortion, that's what I rail against.
Yes.
This kind of, oh well, it doesn't. I can be irresponsible and. You know, I can go and do what I want. I can have this, but then I have the right to choose whether I have a baby or not. After you've been irresponsible, that's what I rail against.
I can see that. I can see that's quite frustrating to be witnessing this happening. It is very frustrating because there's a lack of responsibility, isn't there? And that's what it is. Do
you think that's something that's lacking across society, though, not just in abortion?
Definitely, taking ownership of what's ours. You know. But again, with, you know, there's a lot that goes with abortion. There, you know, having an abortion, it's a strain on emotionally, physically, mentally. I'm not saying for all, because I don't know, maybe some women out there deal with it better than others, but a lot of women it does. You know, it's not an easy decision to make.
See, I went along to a website yesterday, Planned Parenthood.
Okay.
And. Population Matters.
Okay.
Now, when you go to those sites, abortion is the simplest, quickest, easiest thing ever. There's no stress, no strain. It's all so easy. It's safe and easy. They declare that on their website. It's safe, quick, and easy.
I wonder if this is written by people that have actually experienced it. You know, it's 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 not an easy decision to make, and there is a grief and there's a loss and there's a lot that women go through, you know. So it isn't.
But that seems to be kind of brushed aside. That kind of seems to be kind of skipped over the after effects, you know, the side effects of it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's all sort of leading up to this event, and then once it's done,
safe,
it's kind of
clean, easy, clinical, done. You know, it's quite worrying. But in terms of responsibility, there is a responsibility in making that decision. The responsibility is the suffering that women have to go through to go, you know, to do it. But yeah, again, back to what we were saying, I think that, you know, a lot of women, because it's so easy and quick and simple, you know, they won't process emotionally what they've gone through, and this is going to layer and layer
comes later
and
down
layer.
life.
They'll push it away and push it away and push it away, and they'll have another one a couple of years later, or, you know, a warning after pill and all that kind of thing. And what this is doing to their system, not just physically but emotionally, psychologically, they're building and building and building, you know, and one day the cork's going to pop and melt down, you know. Because it's so accessible, like you say, you know, what sort of effect is it really having on these women, you know?
Very, very damaging.
It is.
Let's have a quick look here if anybody's put anything. Okay. Dave, so we need constructive education, not easy get out of jail free cards. I think the UK has the highest rates of teen pregnancy. Tim Raw TNT, hi Tim, and the town over from me is the highest in Europe. Now I know he's up in the northwest.
Okay.
Sky Blue Eyes, hi Sky. There is adoption just because you're not in a position to look after a child. What about those parents who can't have children? They'd be grateful and caring as any maternal mother given the opportunity. The rest of Europe seems to have a better sex education. Let's just... Adoption.
Adoption.
Yeah. Once again, a very sticky subject with everything that's going on with... you know, institutionalised paedophilia, as we seem to be witnessing. Where do you think that fits in to this whole kind of I've had a kid but I can't deal with it now? Sorry, I've had a child, not a baby goat.
Oh, in an ideal world, Alan, you know, things would be perfect and none of this would really exist. It's so hard. It's so hard. I think. I just wonder how that bond is created between an adopted child and parent, you know, and whether they sense that there's something missing, you know, because a lot of the time they'll find their way back to their sort of their mothers and fathers, but I wonder.
Tim said here, I was adopted, my mum couldn't have kids, she was great. Neil, Reality Bites, we'll be having Neil on very shortly, just after 6 o'clock. And also the psychological and physical after effects of the whole abortion thing. Excuse me. Didn't seem to be any questions at all. David Attenborough programmes add propaganda at the end. Because he's all about depopulation and there are far too many of us, and once again, you know, maybe he should step up and say, well, I volunteer to go first.
Indeed, as they all should.
Yeah. Okay. So there's lots going on in the chat room. Lots of people are chatting away about all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah.
But thanks for your contributions today. It's been fantastic. We've almost filled an hour.
Oh, wow.
And you weren't sure what you were going to say.
Well, thanks for having me.
Okay, so where can we see your art?
My art is at www.cherylsmalearts.com.
Okay.
And I'm on SoundCloud, Cheryl Smale, for my music. And
we can hear you on the radio?
Yes, I was supposed to be starting last week on Sunday, but it didn't happen. A few things happened, so I'm starting next Sunday.
5 p.m. UK time, yeah?
5 p.m, yeah.
Okay.
And my guest will be joining me.
Who's the guest?
Roger Lefebvre, and he's talking about flower remedies, but flower remedies.
Flower remedies?
Yes,
okay.
flower remedies.
Fantastic. And more programmes on Awake TV?
Yes, yeah, lots more.
So you've got more with Lewis?
More with Lewis. We're going to have more with Roger. We're going to have some stuff with Roger. And I'm hoping to do some little sort of reports on my own, subjects that interested me, particularly this National Citizen Service.
Now, when we first met, we've got a few minutes. When we first met, that was one of the things you quizzed me about.
Yes.
And I did know a little bit about it.
Yeah. It was my son, I've got a teenage son, and he, through his college, was invited.
You're not old enough.
I have, yeah. He was invited through his college to attend a course entitled the National Citizen Service course, all about how to be a good citizen.
Wow.
And it was right at the time when the National Service Bill was being gone through Parliament. And I'm going to dig into that bit and find out exactly what that's all about.
Because the first time round, did it run out of time, or was it voted out or something?
I think it was voted out, wasn't it?
Right, okay.
However, these kind of courses, I just want to have a look at what they're all about. And I mean, in the name there, National Citizen Service, how to be a good citizen, comply, like a good little boy. I mean, just a few of the things that came up when he returned home about how they were being treated there. They were in rooms that were locked down at night, and they were being searched. The rooms were being searched with a dog and a security guard for drugs. Yeah, daily drug searches. These are teenage lads from college that are there to do
rock climbing.
But they had them locked down at night in this secure unit being searched with dogs.
That sounds kind of like prison to me.
Doesn't it just?
Blimey.
So I'm going to be looking at things like that and just doing a bit of digging and seeing what's going on there, seeing if we can.
Because I'm sure this bill's going to come round again, isn't it?
It will. It's not going to go away.
No.
It's not going to go away. So. Yeah.
And when you've got Osborne today saying that, it might have been yesterday, I think, George Osborne saying that, benefits for the under-21s will last for 6 months, but then they've got to do some kind of community service. Yeah. It's all building up to something. Yeah.
That's quite worrying, quite disturbing. But let's get the awareness out there. Get these lads asking questions. Get them saying, "Hang on a minute, why?"
Yeah.
It's the lads that need to be asking. The lads and ladies as well. It's just not just boys, is it? It's girls.
Right.
Get them asking what's being asked of them. As parents, we can only do so much. You can inform your children, but that's all you can do, really. That ultimately, he's 18 in a couple of months, so he's going to be making his own decisions.
Right.
But all I can do is inform him, get him to go and ask the questions.
Yeah.
So a little bit more on that. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Cheryl, thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan.
An absolute pleasure.
So,
thanks very much to Cheryl Smale for joining us today and her report with Lewis Montague earlier on. Brilliant stuff. Okay, I'm going to give Neil Foster a call, and hopefully he will have, I know he's got loads of news from across stateside. So let's give the man a call. And we will get Neil Foster on the line live. Here he is. Hello. You're live on Awake TV. Please do not swear. You can't hear me.
Gotcha.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Welcome along, Neil.
I'll put these on.
Welcome along, Neil. Great to have you along.
Hey, how you doing?
Very well, thank you, sir. So you've got a whole wodge full of news apparently for us.
One second.
Okay.
1 second.
Okay. Once again, as always, Scrap is playing games with us. These things
I
happen.
hear you. 1 second. Oh, hold on.
Gotcha. Hold on. It wouldn't be a live telly if we didn't have these issues. So, I am now joined, hopefully, live from across the pond by Mr. Neil Foster, who's got some news from stateside. Hi, Neil.
Hi, how are you doing? 1 second. I've got to plug this thing in. Oh, wait a second.
The best prepared plans, eh? I'm going to be going through the papers from this side of the pond. I'm going to be looking at those later on. It's now 6 p.m. here in the UK, so we shall. I'll just have a quick look.
Here we are. We're here.
Okay. So let me get this right, Neil. It should be around about 1 o'clock lunchtime with you. Is that right?
Yep. Spot on.
Excellent. It's 12 o'clock midday, Austin. 10 a.m. San Francisco, and 1 a.m. in Beijing, and 2 a.m. in Tokyo. Just keep the whole world all together. Okay, Neil, take it away. Give us some news from across stateside.
Well, you were talking about abortion earlier, and this report's in the Chicago Tribune. In a land without abortions, women die. Well, I bet a lot more children die in the land with them. And a lot of them will be women as well.
Yes.
Well, very young women, granted, but still future women, shall we say. Have you ever wondered what a world without abortion might look like? Let me amend that. There will obviously never be a world without abortion. Have you ever wondered what a world without legal abortion would look like? And of course, they go into all the rubbish about people being raped, young children being abused, all the worst case scenarios.
Yes.
To legitimise it for everybody. I mean, granted, those cases are exceptional, and I would imagine, in the bigger picture, quite rare in terms of the numbers. In relation to how many people actually get pregnant who want an abortion, I'm sure the number's quite small. But that's what's used to legitimise abortion worldwide. And of course, in China, it's forced on you. You don't have a choice.
That's right.
You know, if you're poor and you want to have 2 children, forget it. You know, but if you're rich, you can have as many as you want. Just like Mr. Attenborough, as you mentioned, population matters. Yeah. It certainly seems to matter to him, but not as far as his own family is concerned. He's got 3 children. Yes. You know, he's 84, I think now. That's right. As you say, why does he take himself off to Dover and jump off a cliff? You know, recycle himself, and well, not recycle himself, but you know, put some biomass into the English Channel. You know, feed some fish. We're running out of fish. We need some food. Mr. David Attenborough deals with the dwindling fish population and starts feeding them with himself and his own children instead of trying to kill everybody else's. What else have we got?
Well, I have always said that these people should start first. I'm sorry. Oh dear. You'd sit on the fence. Don't make a decision either way, Neil. Right?
No, I don't do fence sitting. I find it's a bit painful on my posterior.
Yes. Yes.
I'd rather get off the fence completely. Thanks. But sticking with that subject, if I can get to pop up on the old iPad here, which is the only computer I've got left working. My HP computer, I think right on cue, because it's as old as my last HP computer was when the motherboard fried. The motherboard fried yesterday.
Oh, do you think that's maybe planned obsolescence?
Oh, it could be. Seems a bit of a coincidence.
Does, doesn't it?
But anyway, we spoke, I think it was the last time I was in the studio or the time before, about the amount of stillborn babies that were being born. I think it was 50 or something, or 500 being investigated.
Yes.
UK. Exclusive, this is in the Express. Exclusive pledge to end UK scandal of 17 stillborn babies a day. You never hear about that, do you?
Wow.
17 a day. I wonder how many children are born a day, and what percentage that is. Leading experts, they're not just experts anymore, we've got now leading experts.
Leading experts.
I thought if you were an expert, you were at the top of the tree, but obviously there's another branch. special branch experts. leading experts are to tackle the country's stillborn baby scandal, which sees 17 infants die every day, either near or shortly after birth. Well, I wonder how many are aborted. No mention of that. The Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists is so alarmed at the death rate that next month it will launch a 5-year project to reduce the fatalities. Well, how about cutting out the flu jab for pregnant mothers for a start?
There is that.
Yeah, I wonder how many of these mothers had the flu jab. How many of these mothers, these 17 stillborn babies a day, are a direct effect of vaccination prior to birth? Of course, they won't look into that.
Nope.
And then it's the hypocrisy is astounding. The government-funded plan, Each Baby Counts, is the programme they're calling it. Now, think of Population Matters, yeah?
Yeah.
It's not much different. It's not much different, is it? Will specifically aim to halve the number of preventable stillbirths and causes of brain damage. Interesting, brain damage? Vaccines, maybe?
Possibly.
Many of these have been linked to understaffed and overstretched maternity units together with poor quality care. Really? Really? Well, the woman's giving birth, there's nobody there. Is that what they're trying to say?
It wouldn't surprise me. I've got those stats for you, Neil.
What stats?
From Tommys.org. It's 2012, but I can tell you that 729,674 babies were born alive in 2012. 3,558 were stillborn, and that's 1,999 babies born every day, with 9.7 babies stillborn every day. This is in 2012. In Scotland, 58,027 babies born alive. Now, the first stats, by the way, were England and Wales combined. 274 babies were stillborn in 2012. 5.9% of babies were born premature between 2011 and 12. And that's 158 babies were born every day. 1 baby was stillborn every second day. And about 12 babies were born preterm every day, and 16 women experienced a miscarriage every day.
So we've gone from one stillborn baby every day to every other day to 34.
Yeah.
And they can't work it out.
That's just in 2 years.
In 2 years, yeah. Well, I mean, 17 a day works out at 6,205 stillborn babies a year. That sounds a bit more ominous than 17 a day, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? If you say 6,000 a year.
500 a month?
Yeah.
A month? Where are all these reports in the media?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those are hidden stats.
Yeah. Well, okay. Fox News. US military battles to halt, not ISIS, the spread of Ebola virus in West Africa.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. US military personnel have begun constructing tent hospitals and other facilities to help fight the Ebola epidemic in West Africa, though experts, not leading experts, so they may be wrong, warn that they may be too late to prevent the outbreak from killing thousands more. Well, why didn't they go in January? That
would seem logical.
Why are they still flying people out of the country that are infected? The Wall Street Journal reports that troops from the Navy's 133rd Mobile Construction Battalion began building the first of a dozen planned hospitals in a field outside the main airport in Liberia, one of the 3 countries, along with Sierra Leone and Guinea, that has been hit the hardest by the epidemic. As of September 23rd, the Journal says 6,574 cases have been reported in 5 West African countries, and 3,091 deaths. So it's still only running at 50%. Yet they told us right at the start it was 90%. Those official numbers represent a 2-fold increase in both categories from August, and global health officials have repeatedly stated their belief that the number of cases has been underreported by a factor of 3 or 4. So there's more scaremongering. And if I can find it, there was some clown writing about how Ebola. There was some good news on Ebola. If I can find it. Hold on, I'll have it here. I have it in my news stories for tonight's programme, I think. Yes, here it is. Yes, some good news about Ebola. it won't spread nearly as fast as other epidemics. This guy is a mathematical epidemiologist, and he's basically saying that he'd learned that Ebola isn't the fastest spreading disease in human history. That distinction goes to measles. So there's just a bit of scaremongering on measles again. In the era prior to 1963, when children were first routinely vaccinated, each case of measles created 17 new secondary cases, with transmission spreading like wildfire in schools especially. It was lethal in 1 in every 3 to 4 cases. I don't believe a word of that. I was born in 1963. Children weren't dropping like flies then. We all went to measles parties. Do you think anybody would have taken their child to a measles party if the chances of dying were 1 in 3?
Huh? No. Because you'd be like, 1, 2, 3, oh, you can come in, but 1, 2, 3, oh, you can come in, but it could be dangerous for you.
Yeah, you'd have to put warning labels on your door, wouldn't you? Mm. Enter at your own risk. At this rate, becoming infected with measles during childhood was inevitable, and so were deaths. Well, it's not inevitable you get measles.
No.
If you're susceptible to it, you get it. If you've got a good immune system, the likelihood is you won't. I never got it.
I think I had measles, but I was quite young.
Right. Of course, this reproductive rate isn't the whole story of epidemics. Each case of the Spanish flu, which caused a pandemic of 1918 to 1920, straight out of Cold Springs Harbor, of course, brought over to Spain by American troops. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if these American troops are going to be used in the same way to take it back to America.
Quite possibly, because they will be exposed to many people who have the virus. Yep.
I'm sure there'll be prostitutes thrown at them as well. And as we know, it's transmitted by exchanging bodily fluids and close contact.
Oh, now, I think you're speculating there, Neil, because...
I am speculating,
if the US military ever goes anywhere, there's no prostitution involved whatsoever when any country's military goes anywhere.
No, they have been reported in many, many countries for raping the locals. So maybe prostitutes aren't necessarily just rape anybody that comes along. Mm. Who knows? Although that's... that many call the worst in recent history, produced 2 to 5 additional victims. So each person infected with Spanish flu infected 5 more. So measles was way more dangerous, don't you know? And you better rush out and get the vaccine. Although that's much lower than measles, Spanish flu was still able to spread worldwide because of the speed at which it moved. Well, public transport helped, didn't it? And those flights from America. Able to spread worldwide, and also known as its generation interval. I'm not sure what that means. Only 2 to 3 days elapsed between the first case and a generation of secondary cases. In other words, it doesn't take long for the flu virus to settle into a new host, and a substantial number of transmissions can occur even before a person realises that he or she has the flu. See, they take out the word Spanish for that last couple of sentences, you notice. Just mentioned flu, as if it's something different. Don't you know? Mm. The good news is that Ebola has a lower reproductive rate than measles in the pre-vaccination days. I don't think there was a vaccination for Ebola.
No.
No, there isn't, is there?
No.
And apparently no known cure yet. They're curing everybody that fly out of the country.
Yeah.
Apparently. And just releasing them from hospital on good faith.
That everything's okay. Well, their internal organs haven't been liquidized and bled out their nose and their eyes, so they must be okay and all well then.
Must be, and maybe they're still contagious. Who knows? Our 2004 work, which produced the first estimates for Ebola's reproductive rate by using mathematical modelling and epidemiological data from the Central African outbreaks, found that each case of Ebola produced 1.3 to 1.8 secondary cases on average. Well, how can it spread then? Really? I mean, if you're not even infecting 2 people for every person that gets infected, it ain't going to go far, is it?
No. And then, of course, the old strain of Ebola only had an incubation time of about 5 to 7 days, whereas the strain that we're talking about now, which is the Zaire strain, I believe, is about 21 to 28 days. So it's got much more time to spread.
Mm-hmm. Well, it says it hasn't become more transmissible in the more than 10 years it was lying low. Well, it wasn't lying low. They've had it every year.
Yeah, there's been an outbreak every year.
Yeah, and humankind has experience in dealing with it. So why are we sending in the military? Why all this scaremongering if they can deal with it?
Because we have to maintain the fear levels.
Yeah. Okay, something else. I think somebody put it in the banter room, actually, in the Awake Radio banter room. This is from Test Crunch. It's a website, 28th September. The world's first genetically modified babies will graduate high school this year. Did we ever hear of them being born? Remember the sci-fi thriller Gattaca? For those who never saw the film and or eschewed all pop culture in the late 90s for some reason, it was a popular movie that came out in 1997 about genetically modified human beings. Well worth a watch if you haven't seen it, Alan.
Yes.
Now some literally genetically modified human babies born that same year are entering their senior year of high school. So this is 1990.
So plenty of warning in the media then.
1997.
Yeah, so plenty of warning in the media then.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if these kids know they're genetically modified. I'm sure somebody's watching them.
Yes.
The first successful transfer of genetic material for this purpose was published in a US medical journal in 1997 and then later was cited in a human reproduction publication in 2001. Scientists injected 30 embryos in all with a third person's genetic material. Now, they're talking about this. This was a process that they banned in America later on, but now they've passed it for use here, in the UK.
Yeah.
The children who have been produced by this method actually have extra snippets of mitochondrial DNA or mtDNA from two mothers, meaning these babies technically have three parents. It's still unclear whether all 30 babies turned out healthy. How can it be unclear? I'm sure they've got the medical records.
Yeah. So we've got 30 babies. How many are still alive?
Well, yeah, that'd be the first question.
Yeah.
The Institute for Reproductive Medicine and Science at St. Barnabas, participants of the experiment finally began following up with at least 17 of the now teenagers this year. Okay. So maybe 13 of them are dead.
Potentially.
According to the UK's Independent. We've reached out to IRMS to get those follow-up results, but have not heard back yet. Well, we don't know the identity of these genetically modified teens. Yeah, right. Or even how they are doing health-wise at this point. The ethics of creating designer humans is still very much a hot-button issue. Modifying humans genetically to create some superior race of people. Oh, that rings a bell, doesn't it?
Didn't somebody else try that?
Yeah, rather badly. Modifying humans genetically to create some superior race of people or simply to choose one preferred visual trait over another has been debated among scientists, politicians and others ad nauseum. Yeah, it'd make you vomit. The US Food and Drug Administration no longer even allows such genetic modification to embryos, citing them as a biological product and thus under its jurisdiction. So they're doing it secretly somewhere else then.
Well, they'll be doing it here then, won't they?
Yeah. Well, the same administration here. It's not the Food and Drug Administration. I can't remember what they call it here. But they've got one of the NHS departments is the genetics department now, I believe.
Oh yes, yeah.
Bioethics department.
Most hospitals have a genetics department where they.
That's a eugenics department.
Yeah, eugenics department. That's right. Where they set policy for this.
Yeah, they put the kibosh on this. It's great journalism, isn't it? Words like that. They're using slang now. They put the kibosh on this practice back in 2002. However, these original embryonic modifications were for parents who would potentially pass on severe genetic diseases to their children if it weren't for scientific intervention. Of course, worst case scenario used again to get this all passed. These teens could potentially pass on their genetically modified material to the next generation. Well, of course they're going to. Of course they're going to. So even if no other humans are legally able to be created this way in the future, we've already introduced biologically modified genetic material into the population with the potential to affect large swathes of future generations to come via reproduction.
And let's not forget, we're talking about these children being born with 3 genetic codes in them, but let's not forget the DNA that is still active in the live vaccines, which they will no doubt get. So that's a 4th strand of DNA that's going to be whizzing around their body, modifying them.
Well, it'll be more than one because there's different strains in every vaccine. We'll be sure to update you should the IRMS release any information on the health of these teens. That's the last line. well, like, how about telling us 30 of them are alive and well and have never had an illness in their life? Yeah,
that's a good way to start.
And they've never been vaccinated. How about that? I bet they don't. I bet they probably don't vaccinate these children because they want to see how they cope without it.
This is what's going on in the chat room because of your your stories there, Neil. Sky Blue Eyes mentions the Telegraph story about using aborted babies to heat hospitals. Now, I know that's one that you've covered before. Kerry, who's actively working the buttons as we speak, is disgusted by that.
Well, that's got another agenda. That's a psychological war on people, because how much heat are you going to get a burning fetus in reality?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's full of liquid. What's going to burn?
A non-2855 says, yeah, I don't think it's a good fuel source, but a good way of getting rid of the evidence.
Yeah.
Once
they've taken the organs and the stem cells. Yeah.
Well, this is something else. Kerry said, I wonder if those figures were, I wonder if they were actually stillborn, or did they just say that to harvest the organs?
Well, possibly,
because they've openly said that they remove the organs from these. And
I bet the best and freshest organs are from live babies. So,
Sky Blue Eyes also.
What's Dave doing on the couch? What's Dave doing on the couch?
He's come to join me. Sky Blue Eyes says, you can imagine Sierra Leone government saying, when we asked the USA for help, we were expecting doctors and nurses, not an invasion force.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. It's I mean, it's not going to be long before they shoot somebody.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, this person was infected and was trying to escape, and we had to do something about it.
That sounds like a scene from a film.
Yeah. Well, look at World War Z.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Anyway, talking of guns, Chicago Tribune, weekend gun toll in Chicago, 40 wounded, 5 killed, including a boy, 13. A load of stories about people getting shot, and every one of them sounds like gangland stuff. And of course, you know, they'll be on about taking guns off of you, but of course, gangland members don't give a damn about registering their guns.
No, well, no. If you're a gang member,
if you're
you're not going to register your guns. And second, and the other thing is, if there have been that many deaths and woundings, why aren't these towns and cities locked down under martial law, as we've seen highlighted previously?
Yeah, with the one person getting shot, or one shooter, and that was Chicago as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was another case where there was a nightclub called, I think it was Spot It or Spot On or something it was called.
Okay.
And it was full of teenagers, underage people. And there was a drive-by shooting there. There was people shooting back and forth to this nightclub. And it's right on the main street. And the police said they didn't even know it was there. It's been open for 3 days.
Oh, for goodness sake. They didn't know it was there?
They didn't know it existed. No, it just appeared. It's got a big billboard outside that says Spot On. It's like a proper nightclub outside, and they didn't know it was there. You know? So, there you go. It's a big list of shootings in Chicago, and a few other ones. Of course, you've got the guy running about the woods. I can't remember where that is, but the guy running about the woods, survivalist guy.
That was Sandy Hook.
No, it's a recent. This is going on now.
Oh, a recent. Well, I know we had something similar when the whole stage Sandy Hook art theme was going on. We had a man in camouflage gear running about the woods.
Yeah.
Or two men, wasn't it?
Yeah, they've got this guy now. I think it'll be 18 days now. I think he's alleged to have shot a police officer, and then they started a manhunt. So they're chasing him through the woods, and he keeps making appearances and sending photographs to the media as if, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one on Agenda 21. Detroit. Now, we all know Detroit. I think quarter of it's set for demolition. And anybody who's seen any pictures of the neighbourhoods in Detroit will probably say, well, that's a good thing, because it's a wreck, the whole city.
The whole city's been utterly...
Judge rules he can't stop Detroit water shut-offs. Detroit's bankruptcy judge today said he lacked the authority to issue a restraining order to stop water shut-offs over delinquent bills, they call them here. You're a delinquent if you don't pay your bills, yeah? Saying that there is no constitutional right to water.
Now,
yeah.
I don't want to knock the Constitution or anything, but I'm fairly sure that part of it, of the life and liberty thing, does involve water.
Yeah, well, I mean, according to the UN, water is a human right. So it's regardless of the Constitution, it's a human right. We all, I mean, it falls out of the sky. We all have a right to it. It's the same as these corporate gangsters who own our water companies seem to think they have.
Yeah.
it doesn't really mention here that it's a human right. It's just going on about the Constitution, and this judge saying that he doesn't have the power to stop the water companies cutting you off. So I mean, are they just going to drive more people out of Detroit?
I think so. That just seems to be the whole point. That seems to be the whole point, is to just clear Detroit completely.
Yeah, they've shut down. Advocacy groups who sought a moratorium on shutoffs testified last week that the Detroit Water and Sewerage Department's policies of mass shutoffs, 19,000 in recent months, are leaving low-income households with seniors and children without water service. I mean, this is I wonder if they're going to start doing this in London to get the poor people out, because that's what this looks like. They'll get them out, and then Detroit will become one of these, super cities for the rich.
Well, do you know, this sounds like the script for the 1980s version of RoboCop, because that's one of the things that they were doing, was to clear Detroit to build the Detroit megacity. Yeah, that's why they put RoboCop on the streets. Yeah, well, I watched recently the remake of that. I might watch it again and see if there's anything in there about that. And this is all going on. Well, there's lots of transhumanism in there, isn't there? I mean, that's the whole point of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, here's something else that's happening. This is Microsoft. Bill Gates. He's getting involved in polling now.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
And I don't want to keep you too long, but
no.
People are slowly getting used to asking digital assistants like Apple Siri simple questions like, "Will it rain tomorrow?" Well, why would you bother? You can look it up online. You don't have to ask an application if it's going to rain. Look out the window.
Yeah.
And where was Justin Bieber arrested? Well, I hope he gets arrested everywhere. That would be my answer to that. And stop him warbling as he does. Soon, cell phones may be the ones doing the asking, surveying people. I think that should be surveilling, but it says surveying anyway. Surveying's the same thing, isn't it?
It is.
If you're performing a survey, you're watching somebody. Surveying people on more serious matters like their choice for president and how the United States should confront the Islamic State. Oh. On Monday, Microsoft is starting a relatively straightforward survey website called Microsoft Prediction Lab, where users can submit their views and predictions regarding politics, sports, and other subjects. The more novel part of Microsoft's plan will come later, though, when Cortana, Microsoft's answer to Siri, starts conducting interviews herself, imitating human pollsters. So you're thinking you're getting a call from a human being. It's actually Microsoft computers.
Well, you know where that's come from. There's the AI character in the Halo franchise is called Cortana.
Well, there you go. Microsoft's entry into surveys could become another step in the polling field's journey away from random digit dialing of landline telephones and towards newer technologies like cell phones and the internet. Polling analysts will watch Cortana not just because of its novelty, but also because of its potential to provide a human-sounding voice at little cost. The field is in a state of flux. Everyone in the profession recognises that a lot of challenges to our traditional methods. I think this kind of experimentation is overdue. An experiment, eh? Microsoft's survey website derives directly from the company's relatively quiet 2012 polling experiment. Did you hear about that?
Nope.
Which, of all things, is Xbox video game console. So your children were being polled.
There you go. Halo.
Unwittingly. Yeah, computer game. Despite a sample that was overwhelmingly male and heavily young, Microsoft researchers were able to weight the answers to, listen to this, to produce an outcome generally in line with major exit polls.
Well, I never. Are you telling me that maybe they manipulated that poll?
Well, that's what it sounds like to me.
Wow.
It's a pretty extreme example of a skewed population. Or screwed up population, I suggest. Said Douglas Rivers, a professor of political science at Stanford, where they do all those psychological experiments.
Hey.
Where they electrocute people, the prison experiment, all that stuff.
So they haven't stopped doing it then?
No, he's a chief scientist. He doesn't call himself an expert, but anyway, maybe he needs to speak to some experts. Of YouGov, a research firm that conducts internet polls and is providing online survey data to the New York Times for this year's midterm elections. So there you go. Microsoft's going to rig your polls now. So there you go. And,
well, you know, just mentioning YouGov, some people make a lot of money out of YouGov because if you fill in surveys, you get paid for each of the surveys you do. So the more you do, the more money you make. And a lot of people make a lot of money just from filling out surveys.
Is that you.gov? UK.
Yeah, YouGov. Yeah.
Right, I might start doing that myself. And they can surveil me all they want as long as they pay me. They're watching me anyway.
Yeah.
But not on my computer anymore.
Well, no.
Every cloud has a silver lining. Yeah. And so does my computer, but it's not working. One more story here.
Okay.
This seems to happen all over the world, doesn't it? Miami Herald, locally. Inmate death in private transport van in Miami-Dade raises questions. So they've now got private vans taking you to prison, okay?
Oh,
or
just
from
like
prison,
here then.
whatever. Yeah, that's G4S there, isn't it?
Yes. And Serco
Okay,
and...
Well, I remember as a young man that G4, as they were called then, were regularly losing prisoners out the back of the van. And then somebody gave them the contract to look after the money.
Yes.
I couldn't understand it. You know, it's funny they lost prisoners, but they never seemed to lose any money.
Interesting, that.
Yeah. Or was it the other way around? They're losing a lot of money now into somebody's back pocket. So who knows? Anyway, at age 54, Denise Isaacs suffered from a slew of ailments, including bipolar disorder, anxiety, and chronic abdominal pain. Yet Isaacs, who was wanted in Southwest Florida on probation, listen to her heinous crime, a probation violation for shoplifting, was crammed into a stuffy transport van with 10 other shackled inmates for a nearly 1,000-mile trip from Kentucky to Punta Gorda.
What?
I knew a 1,000-mile trip for a probation violation for shoplifting.
What?
Yeah. I knew she wouldn't be able to make the trip like that because of her weakness and pain, said her daughter, Callie Isaacs of Lexington, Kentucky. But her family never believed that the rigours of the journey might kill her. Isaacs earlier this month was found slumped over dead inside the van operated by Tennessee-based Prisoner Transportation Services of America through a contract with the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office during a stop at a West Miami-Dade Taco Bell restaurant. Maybe she ate there. But there's 10 other inmates in the back of the van, and they had to wait till they stopped to discover she's dead.
That's unbelievable.
Her case offers a window into the little publicised world of private inmate transport companies, and it has now spurred a law enforcement investigation into whether the transport officers provided her with proper care and attention during the gruelling 2-day road trip.
Well, clearly not.
Obviously not, yeah? According to sources with knowledge of the investigation, Isaacs is believed to have acted strangely throughout the trip, apparently suffering hallucinations while drinking little water and refusing a meal during a stop in Orlando. Well, why didn't they get her medical attention?
Yeah.
And when the two transport officers, because they'd have to pay for the ambulance. That's why.
Ah, of course, yeah.
And when the two transport officers, I think it's speaking to a guy here the other day there, and he said it's $3,000
for the ambulance.
If you call an ambulance.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a road accident, you need an ambulance, they charge you $3,000 for the privilege of turning up and take you to hospital, even if you can walk there yourself. And when the two transport officers finally saw that she was unresponsive in the Taco Bell parking lot, they first removed the Taco Bell thing from her stomach, I'd suggest. They first called their superiors in Tennessee. So they didn't think to call a doctor.
No. Don't need a doctor. Call the boss.
Yeah. Only after unsuccessfully trying to revive her did the officers dial 911, sources said. I wonder if they were medically trained.
Ooh, I would imagine not, because there'd be insurance implications there.
Yep. The cause of death remains unknown. An autopsy of Isaacs has so far proved inconclusive. Oh, that's handy, isn't it? While the Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office awaits the results of more tests. Company representatives did not return repeated calls from the Miami Herald seeking comment. The company bills itself as the nation's largest prisoner extradition company and one of the largest international transporters of detainees. International.
Wow.
According to the company, it transports more than 10,000 detainees each year for law enforcement across the country. This is on their website. We can move your prisoner at less cost than if you did it yourself. The company's website boasts. They might not get there alive, but you know.
I wonder if they were involved in any of this extraordinary rendition that we had going on, because if they do international prisoner transport, surely they must have charter planes and stuff.
You would have thought so, and you know, you wonder what the private prison is going to think of that. They're one inmate short; they can't charge.
Well, you know? Yeah, that's loss of profit, isn't it?
Yep. Well, maybe they own the same prison. Who knows? A spokesman for the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office, which contracts prisoner transportation services for extraditing inmates, said she could not comment about the company until her counterparts at the Miami-Dade Police Department finished their investigation. The Charlotte Sheriff's Office runs the jail in Punta Gorda. Prisoners' transportation services have not escaped scrutiny in recent years. Last year, 2 company agents left their transport van unattended in Oklahoma, and the inmates broke through a partition and drove away. The 8 prisoners were recaptured. In 2009, the company lost 2 inmates in high-profile escapes during a 6-month span. Sounding like G4, isn't it?
Isn't it just?
One man accused of attempted murder vanished from a transport van somewhere between Fort Lauderdale and Philadelphia. In the other case, Delaware's prison system cut ties with the company after a shackled inmate en route to the state escaped at an airport. How can you escape at an airport?
You can't escape. Even if you've got a ticket, you can't escape from an airport.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, how did they get through the metal detector with handcuffs on?
Did the TSA search him?
Yeah, it's probably the same company that does the security searches there, obviously, and they never spotted the handcuffs.
No.
They went to frisk him and said, "Can you put your hands up?" He says, "No, I can't. I've got handcuffs on, so don't worry about it."
Through you go.
The Miami incident raises questions about whether the company had proper procedures and training. Vital concerns often overlooked by governments looking to save money by outsourcing public safety functions, said Donald Cohen, Executive Director of the In the Public Interest, a non-profit group that studies privatisation. They let someone die on their watch, and this should not have happened. Bit of an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
As for Isaacs, she had lived in Punta Gorda with her father for several years. In August 2012, she was arrested on a grand theft charge after police said she stole $1,200 worth of merchandise from a Walmart store in Port Charlotte. She pleaded no contest and was given 18 months of probation plus a withhold of adjudication, which means no conviction appeared in her record. According to her daughter, Isaacs had recently returned to her native Kentucky, still under corrections supervision. She was my best friend. We lived together. She would just make me laugh all day. She had the biggest heart ever. She was probably stealing food to feed her family. You know, much like the lady in Peterborough.
That's right. The lady in Peterborough. She was pregnant. She'd got a heroin addiction, but she was homeless. She had no money. She stole £13 worth of food, and once again, a probation violation. Didn't turn up to a meeting, so they put her in prison, and she miscarried in the cell. Yeah.
Well, this lady's crime was that she had failed to. She admitted what she did. She took the penalty for it. And the reason she had failed to complete 200 hours of community service and owed $607.98 in court fines. So for that, she was arrested and driven 1,000 miles and died. Unbelievable. After her jailing, Isaac suffered hallucinations, complaining that she had not been given her psychiatric medications. Nonetheless, a prison transportation services Charlotte Chevrolet passenger van picked her up in Kentucky on September 14th, then headed south, collecting other inmates at detention centres in several states. On the evening of September 16th, the van stopped at the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Centre in West Miami-Dade to pick up another inmate. In all, 8 male and 3 female inmates were in the van, separated from the driver and accompanying company agent by a partition. Just before 10 p.m, they found Isaacs unconscious. Her daughter said that a company representative, in a phone call afterward, insisted that Isaacs had been medically cleared for the trip, yet she didn't have her medication. They shouldn't have let her make that trip in that condition, knowing she was not eating, knowing she was hallucinating. They should have left her here in Kentucky and given her medical attention. Yep, and she'd probably still be alive today. But there you go. This happening all over the world. As we say, that case in Peterborough with the pregnant lady who was forced to clean up her own miscarried fetus from the cell floor.
Yep.
Her crime was the heinous crime of shoplifting.
To feed herself.
We've got our politicians bragging about flying, bombers, F-16 bombers over innocent civilians in Iraq and Syria and blowing them to bits. That's okay.
Yeah, we can spend billions on that. That's okay, but God forbid you should nick £13 worth of food.
Yeah. Well, anything else? We've got this mysterious respiratory illness that's going around America, apparently. 277 confirmed cases in 40 states, affecting mostly children. It was first identified 50 years ago, and it's called the enterovirus 68, or EVD68. And it was rarely tested for and only began getting attention last month as hundreds of cases were linked to the virus. They just linked it to this virus that nobody heard of. The severity is what triggered our concerns. At worst, EBD68 causes wheezing, problems breathing, and paralysis. Sounds a bit like polio, doesn't it?
Similar.
Yeah, maybe they've just changed the name again. The CDC is investigating 9 cases in Colorado of children with muscle weakness or paralysis. But then again, that can happen with vaccination, can't it?
It certainly can, my friend.
Yep. So I wonder if they're testing for that. They've stressed it's not to be confused with the Ebola virus, so that's okay then. But you might just be paralysed. And it doesn't indicate how widespread the cases are in each state. The Public Health Agency and a handful of state public health authorities are working through a backlog of multiple hundreds of specimens, with more coming in. So this is the latest pandemic, obviously. They're going to come out with something for this. Infants, children, and teens are most at risk to get sick, especially children with asthma, and the reason for the current outbreak is not completely understood. Currently, there is no vaccine. I bet there will be in a month's time.
Yes, there certainly
no
will.
Antiviral to treat the illness, he added. A lot of this is still under investigation, and these investigations can take weeks. Well, they'll probably have an investigation, a vaccine before the investigation is finished, I would suggest.
Thank you very much for that, Neil.
That's what's happening.
What time's your show on tonight, and what can we expect to hear?
It'll be on an hour after you finish. 8 p.m. UK, 3 p.m. US Eastern.
Thank you very much, Neil. Thanks for your time.
No problem.
Really appreciate it. As always, we'll speak to you very soon. Take care.
Cheers. Take care. Bye.
Okay, yes, so Neil will be joining you at 8 p.m. In between time, between 7 and 8, you can hear Sun producer Connor presenting Cloud 7, and his show is themed around pipes. Everything will be connected by the word pipes, and that's ongoing now, and Awake Radio will be joining in just under 20 minutes' time. I'm joined on the sofa by the man who makes things emotional for me, Mr. Dave Eden.
Good afternoon, Alan.
Enjoying the papers there from the prostitutes?
Oh, I'm reading some complete nonsense, I'll tell you that.
Yep, it's about Labour MPs, I notice.
Well, I've been reading about George Clooney. That's a biggie. And, yeah.
Been reading about some complete nonsense with George Clooney.
I have, yeah, and forgetting to turn my microphone on.
And not this George, not this one who's scrapping pension sites.
No, not
a completely different George.
But, okay. Yeah, I thought I'd just pop in now. It's a team effort, so show willing. This is...
We can't see you over the paper.
All right, sorry.
There's concern that the beautiful visage...
I would have thought I'd have been doing people a service there, really, but there you go.
Your visage was being obscured by that prostitute rag.
Now, this is quite an amusing one for me. As we discussed the other day, I'm not a great believer in anything religious of any way, shape or form. Very respectful for people that are.
Yes.
But just not my bag. Now, this is a nice little article by Oliver Moody. And apparently, Islam must accept that many of its stories about the Prophet Muhammad are fictions. If it is to be if it is to counter the jihadist rhetoric driving young Muslims into the arms of terrorist groups, a historian has said. So basically, what this historian has come out with and said, look, you know, if we're going to stop these people being driven into the arms of terrorist groups, what Muslims need to be doing, and the faith of Islam, is accept that the stories about Prophet Muhammad are fiction, as opposed to the. He does mention this here actually, I suppose, and you know this is also felt by Christian intellectuals as well, who say that really the people of Islamic faith are obliged to confront the evil purposes to which the New Testament had been put in the wake of the Holocaust, so on and so forth. It is not enough merely to insist that Islam is a religion of peace and leave it at that. Now, for me, this is quite amusing in lots of ways, because then, you know, really, guys, you really need to accept this as fictitious.
Yes.
Whereby, but obviously, anything that we believe isn't.
Of course
because
not.
It's perfectly acceptable and believable that a talking snake did tell Eve to eat the apple,
yes,
which she did, and at which point realised that she was naked. And up until that point, she'd obviously been eating berries off the fruit, off the trees of forgetfulness.
Oh, bless. And there is a man with a beard in the sky.
Absolutely. You know, I don't know what to say about that, but I mean, how, you know, just how more ridiculous can this possibly get?
Well, you see, once again, we're seeing Islam, Muslims being segregated, being singled out and targeted, and we have to be afraid of them.
And of course, that won't cause them any offence whatsoever.
No,
Really. That's not
no,
designed
not at all.
to cause
No.
any offence whatsoever. That's
Not
just
at all.
a perfectly legitimate thing to print in a newspaper. Yeah, I know there's hundreds of millions of you that believe this, but actually it's all fiction.
Yeah.
So
There's the story here of Linda Bellingham, who's been very ill with cancer, but she's made the statement that apparently she wants to choose the time and place of her death. She's terminally ill. She wants one last Christmas with her family before saying goodbye and going to sleep. In a heartbreaking interview, the 66-year-old reveals her dying wishes following the news that she has bowel cancer and has a short time left to live. Above all, she hopes her spirit will live on in her sons, and husband Michael, 59, finds new love. I just want to say goodbye, then I'll go to sleep. I'm sad I'll not see my boys marry. I'll always be with them. I hope my husband Michael finds another woman to love. That's quite a brave decision, a brave thing to say. And but to be honest with you, I would want to carry on as long as possible. That's just my view. And if I was diagnosed with something like that, I would be looking at all possible cures before making a decision about ending my life.
well, I mean, I think
Sorry, I can't say cure cancer, can I?
no.
Oh.
But I think that's a very personal thing, isn't it? Al?
Yeah,
I mean,
it
you
is.
know, my mother, as I said, recently had ovarian cancer. And you know, I used to read in the papers and stuff, and it used to say, "Oh, such a body bravely battled cancer." And I used to think, "What nonsense! How can you bravely battle a disease that is basically going to, you know, it's some form of symbiont, hostile symbiont that's going to take over your life and eventually destroy you?" And I used to think it was nonsense, but I watched a woman with incredible fortitude and can-do attitude survive for 7 years and refused to bend to it. I mean, you know, I've got some pictures of her taking matters of weeks before her death, and you wouldn't even think she was ill.
Right. Yeah.
Now, this is an odd thing about this, because I'm sure my sister won't, you know, say anything about me talking about this. I was up in Sheffield this weekend, and I was talking to my sister and my dad, and because of the risk of ovarian cancer, my sister's not been too well. She's 50 next month, and she's at that time of life for a woman. They went and did some tests to make sure that she hadn't got ovarian cancer. And they said to her, "No, you haven't got ovarian cancer." And she said, "Look, I'm 50 years old. I'm in the change. I don't really need them. Can you remove them?" To which they said, "No, we can't do that. It's a surgical procedure. You can't do. However, we can remove your breasts for you." Now, there's no history of breast cancer in our family at all. As far as I know, my sister's perfectly healthy, and what she says she's perfectly healthy that way. So why are they suggesting removing her breasts?
Well, there's funding for that, isn't there?
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, they get funding for that because it's the Angelina Jolie effect.
Of which we saw recently, of course, as many multiple percentages more women have actually now sought elective surgery to have the breast removed since Angelina Jolie's done so. One has to question what the agenda is there. I don't for 1 minute pretend to know. You know, I don't want to speculate, but you know, supposition's not a good thing. But whatever that agenda is, it seems to be quite frightening. Why women are sort of being.
I think there's a lot of funding has gone into the breast cancer, you know, preventative breast cancer issue. So there's a pot of money for that set aside. Hence, possibly, once again, that she was offered that.
Yeah, it just. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, maybe, you know, maybe the doctors and people think they know something that we don't. But I mean, we can't remove your ovaries, which is a potential threat, but we'll cut your breasts off. It just doesn't seem to make any sense whatsoever.
None at all, mate.
So, yeah, I think I remembered, I spoke a couple of weeks when we spoke, I said that somebody I knew very well, a family member had been diagnosed with cancer, having repeatedly gone to the doctors and been told, no, it's 10 cell bones, this, that and the other. They then found, after many, many months of no treatment whatsoever, and we're not going to send you for this test, that she in fact had lung cancer.
Wow.
Which is at the top of one lung.
Yeah, okay.
It's a particular type of cancer, the name I've forgotten about it now, but if caught early enough, you can basically take off that top section of the lung. It's above the pipes.
Right.
They have tested her recently, or this week. Then they're bypassing chemo and going straight to radiotherapy.
Right.
And said, no, unfortunately, it's now gone to your bones. And like Linda Bellingham, I mean, she actually said, well, you know, I don't expect to see Christmas now. And you know, no one's given her a date, no one suggested anything, but you know, she sort of decided, well, that's it, I'm not going to see Christmas, and you know, I think psychologically that may have some impact. But the very fact that this lady, as many other people, have gone through this, gone to their doctors, said what's wrong with them, and then turned out to have cancer. Nothing's been done about this. Really, I think there has to be some recourse against these people that fail. People know their own bodies.
Of course.
And you know, I think intrinsically, you know, if there's something seriously wrong with you. You know, I mean, I don't know about yourself, but you know, I'm ill. I get lots of aches and pains, but I know if something is different to what, well, you know, is symptomatic of my condition. I know if something's unusual. But oh no, it's only this, it's that. It's I don't know whether it's funding. I don't know whether it's lack of care, or it's just part of the, well, let's let as many people die as we can attitude that we seem to be the society we're living in now.
We've got a massive spread here in the Daily Fail about sex shame MP, I've been a fool. That's the main spread. Fake account Sophie Whittams uses a photo of Swedish model and a sunbathing Britain in a Twitter profile. So there's a lot going on Twitter, but that's followed up with Cameron wept as Haig jabbered at auctioneer speed. So William Hague managed to make David Cameron cry by talking fast.
I've only just actually listened to what you said then. I was miles away. Made him cry by talking fast.
Yes.
Oh, dearie me.
Tories in Birmingham, PM, I'm posh, deal with it. An exclusive to the lowest of the low, the rag of choice. You'll notice there's only one little tag here sticking out. All the others have got loads. Yeah, fired up David Cameron has hit back at critics of his posh Eton background, declaring he's proud of his rich stockbroker dad as the Tory conference begins. And the story, which has been marked for me so diligently by the production team. Now, this is interesting, yeah, because Kerry, who works with us on a Monday, the RAF are helping with a hunt for Alice. The RAF are joining the search for missing teenager Alice Gross. Officers have been providing aerial analysis to police to help pinpoint places to focus their hunt. And the point that Kerry made was, well, what about all the other teens, kids, children that go missing every day across the UK? Why aren't the RAF up searching for all of them as well? And he has a very fine point. Of course, this story has been used in very high profile to once again make us all scared and not let our teenagers out of the house because they may get lost or stolen. So be scared for your kids. The Telegraph, Osborne scraps the death tax. Tory conference begins with Chancellor bidding for the grey vote. The Prime Minister fighting to regain initiative after UKIP defections. But also, don't forget that this is the same George Osborne who has informed young people that they'll only get benefits for 6 months, but they must do community service for a year to get that 6 months. And then after that, they're on their own until at least the age of 21. Yeah, the death tax is scrapped, and then there's the thing about George Clooney. in the Express, and no tags, so nothing worth looking at inside the Express. Once again, tourists slashing the tax, and the story in here is Syria is still an option as the RAF fail to find targets. They basically took off and went to go and bomb targets, the ISIS targets in Iraq, which were voted on by the Parliament. I think it was sort of 480 majority yes to bombing targets in Iraq. Well, they didn't find any. They flew all over Iraq, couldn't find any targets to bomb. So they could just turn left basically and head to Syria. It's still an option, according to, and we see one of the very outdated Tornado aircraft there, because I don't think Typhoon can bomb anything yet. It's good at air-to-air stuff, but I'm not sure it's able to bomb anything yet. They've not quite worked out the computers for that. But an RAF Tornado GR4 alongside an Airbus A330 Voyager during the RAF's first combat mission against ISIS in northern Iraq. That's something else that's potentially, I'm not sure if they've quite done it yet, but they are talking about contracting out air-to-air refueling for the RAF in combat zones. So currently that's still something that's undertaken by the RAF, but I know they've taken on a new fleet of Airbus tankers, so that could mean that they're on the way to contracting that out as well as engineering and everything else. Okay, fleet to sea, dozens killed by Japanese volcano, something a little bit independent, something different from the Independent. And give cash to refugees, says Dave Miliband. Don't give them blankets and food, give them cash and let them fund themselves, or let them find their own food. Also, you can't cream off blankets and bread, can you? RAF Tornadoes complete early missions over Iraq, but government warns strikes across the border may be needed. Well, there's a subtle hint that we're going to be bombing Syria very, very soon. I don't think we need any more notice than that. So get ready for the next stage of the war. And finally, oh, what's this? Is this sports pages or something? Have you taken the sports pages out? You have, haven't you?
No, I don't read the sports pages.
Business
mate.
And stuff. I don't look at
Unless it's
either.
croquet, I'm not really interested.
Yeah. Well, it's you're obviously talking about like danger croquet, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, with exploding,
exploding croquet, or Formula One. Other than that,
right? Okay.
Yeah, any of those things where you kick balls around, it's just not my stuff.
So, in the last few minutes, Dave, what have we got?
Just quite. This amuses me. Borrowers are to face personality tests before securing loans, as a major bank is planning to use psychometric testing in its credit decisions. The test, in the form of a computer-based quiz, has been developed by Visual DNA, a British company, and is already being given to consumers in South Africa, Turkey, Russia and Poland. And we're going to start the trial in Britain by the end of this year. Basically, the British test will focus on customers who have been refused loans by the standard criteria based on their financial history. Marginal cases will be offered a second attempt in the form of an online quiz in which customers are asked to select pictures that best identify, for example, how they are feeling or how they react to stress. Well, I have to say, you know, when you get these sort of like Rorschach pictures and things like that, I mean, every single one of them, I just look at them and they all seem to represent a different member of the Imperial Romanov family. So I'm going to be stuck on that one. The company, which has not revealed the identity of the bank, said that in most cases the psychometric testing allows the lender to make the loan. And then it just goes on to say, pictures are used because those being tested give a more intuitive and honest response than any written application or answers.
Absolutely.
And the credit decision is based on the respondent's degree of hesitation as measured by the delay in giving an answer, as well as tracking the cursor of the mouse.
Why don't they just play just a minute?
Yeah.
Hesitation, deviation, repetition.
Watson. And apparently Tesco's has now told its investors they are going to use data that they've collected from Club Card Loyalty Scheme for credit assessments.
Unbelievable. Thank you very much for that, Dave. Just want to say stay tuned to Awake Radio and all the other networks that carry the live programming. Producer Connor, my youngest son, is going to be presenting his show in just a minute. Cloud 7, coming at you from 7 o'clock until 8. It's themed around pipes. Thank you very much for joining us. Back on the radio tomorrow and then back on Awake TV here on Wednesday from 5 p.m. UK time. Stay safe, and as always, to whichever deity you give your faith, may they bring you peace. Bye-bye.